background about the R, because R is a vast software, and means people get confused that what type of functions we have to use while doing this thing. So that is what I was trying to do. And yeah, so and then secondly, I have again uploaded the file of that today's lecture at the same address. So you just go to Google, type my name, come to my homepage. There will be MIT University link. You just click over there. The file name is the same because I don't have at the time to go to my site and change every day. So the file name is the same mit.pdf, but now this is the file of the lecture 2. So don't try to overwrite. Right. Okay. So now today we are going to talk about the beginning of and we talk about the statistical topics from the beginning. You see, when actually I had to take a call that what topic in the statistics I have to choose, then it was difficult because when you try to come to the data science, usually people have an understanding that unless and until you are trying to use a very complicated statistics, this cannot work, which is actually a myth. It means I would say whenever you get the data, the first in-hand information that you get here, it is about, right, means I have prepared this slide you can see here. Means you cannot read anything from this slide. And you can think about the data, which is millions and billions in numbers and trillions rather, that is a very small number. So what you will try to do? There are many basic statistical inferences which can be drawn just by using the basic fundamental tool. So that is why, and that time what I have here, in this time I thought, and then there were many people who do not have the background in statistics. That is first thing. Second thing is the objective of this workshop was to learn the statistics from the R perspective. Right. So I'm not teaching here statistics. So I thought that let me try to choose those topics which people know. And then I will try to demonstrate them that how they can use it in the R software. So what will happen that will give them a sort of confidence. They know statistics, but they don't know how to use those statistical tools in the R software. So if I can tell it, both will join, and then the bonding will become very strong, and then the journey will begin once again. So let us try to start our discussion with this topics in mind. Once you understand that how you are going to use these things, then after that means you can use it at any place. And believe me, I'm going to start with the one very simple thing, frequency, partitioning values, etc., etc. And I will try to give you sufficient examples so that you can believe on me that these things are really going to help you out. These are very important things. And I can assure you that many big data applications, for example, if I once again take the example of this shopping website like Amazon, Flipkart, many good decisions can be taken on this basis. So let us begin our discussion. So you see, whenever the data comes in your hand, as I said, the data is deaf and dumb. That cannot say anything that another, ma'am, I have this property, sir, I have that property. No. This is only you who has to put your hand inside the mouth of the data, and then you have to dig out the information. But the problem is this, what type of information do you want? Means if I say now, means in the recent couple of months, a very simple question was, how much time does it take to recover from COVID? It's how many days one has to take the medicine, 3 days, 5 days, 7 days, 9 days. After that, what they have to do? If you want to study such things, you can simply take the data of those, means you can give the medicine to some patient and you can observe those patients that after how many days they recovered. It might be possible that some patients have recovered, say, after taking the medicine for 3 days, some for 4 days, some for 5 days, some for 6 days. So now, as a doctor, what information would you like from me? Means if somebody has a COVID, then the doctor has to decide that how many days they have to give this medicine. And the problem is this, they don't have opportunity to so close monitor or check the patient because that's an infectious disease. So now one information which is very useful that, okay, they can take the data of 100, 200, 300 patients, whatever they have, and simply trying to find out the average value. This average does not mean arithmetic mean. It can be arithmetic mean, median, mode, anything. And then whatever is the value, that would indicate that means, okay, this is the one central value with which I can begin the treatment. So they will give the medicine for say 5 days and they will say, okay, let me know after 5 days. So in case if the person has recovered within 5 days, then there is no issue. If the person has some more issues, he will come back, he or she will come back after 5 days. And then the doctor will try to adjust the medicine. So that is why this central tendency of the data is very important, number one. Number two, once the doctor gives the initial medicine for 5 days, some patients will recover, but some patients will not. Those patients who have recovered, they will not come back after 5 days, but those patients who have not recovered, they will come back after 5 days. So now, suppose if the doctor says that, okay, I will give them, suppose the average value comes out to be 5 days and the doctor gives the data only for 2 days, what do you expect? Most of the patient will come back. But in case if the doctor gives the data for say 5 days, 6 days, then less number of people are coming back because most of the people, they got recovered in 3 days, 4 days, 5 days time. So tell me one thing. You can see here two types of feature. One is the central tendency of the data, that where the data is concentrated. And second is the concentration around the value 5. If this is my here 5, then one value here is 3, 4, 5, 6, and so on, whether they are how close they are to the value of 5. If this difference between 5 and the actual number of days is very high, I would say this 5 is not a very dependable value. For example, if I say, okay, give the medicine only for 1 day, then okay, none of the value 5, 6, 7 is close to 1. That is very far away. So that is not a very dependable value. On the other hand, if I give the medicine for say 20 days, okay, people will recover, but 20 days taking the antibiotics and strong medicine will harm the body also. So in case if the days are less, there is a risk of life. And if the days are more, then there is a risk of health. So now the question is what to do? You need to strike a balance. But how to strike a balance? How would you know? For that, we need to understand the variation in the data. And the variation in the data, particularly around the central value. Once you have this type of information, then people are more interested in knowing. You have seen that was a very popular question, whether COVID is affecting more younger children, elder people, etc., etc. So whatever is the data about the COVID patient is there, you would always try to find out that what is the concentration of the COVID patient as an elder, as a younger, as a older people, and so on. So we need to study the structure and shape of the data. And after that, there are many factors that are affecting this COVID. For example, if somebody has a COVID, one factor is that is affecting the COVID is that whether he goes out of the room or in public or not. If he goes to the public, that is infectious, that will infect more people. Similarly, if you are trying to take the medicine, steam inhalation, and there are many things people are trying to do, are they really going to affect the recovery of the patient? I mean, just a couple of days back, I got a data from one of the hospital where the doctor has collected around 70 observations on different patients, and particularly in the children, and they are trying to see whether there's different types of symptoms like rashes, fever, etc., etc. There were 23 symptoms. Whether are they really going to affect the COVID or not? They wanted to know that what is really going to happen in the third wave if it comes. That is it really going to attack on the children, and it happens. Then what are the symptoms which are more common in the children? So they want to study a sort of relationship between the recovery of the COVID patient with respect to the 23 variables. So if, for example, there was one factor, something like this, where we saw that, okay, it is not so important. So one should not be worried about those things actually. So this is the type of relationship study we want to study, that how things are correlated. Right, correlated doesn't mean only the correlation, but it is actually a general word that people are trying to study the degree of relationship. The degree of relationship can be between quantitative variable, qualitative variables, and many things. Right. After this, once you get a real data, because see what really happens in data science or in statistics, you simply get the data. That's all. It is just like this. A patient goes to a doctor, sir, I'm ill. That's all. I'm not feeling well. Whether there is a problem in the stomach, pain in the stomach, or headache, the doctor doesn't know. But the patient expects that, okay, doctor will try to examine it, and then it will try to give them a proper suggestion. Now, what the doctor does? Doctor tries to first look into our mouth, eyes, weight, etc., etc., and then the doctor asks for some clinical examination. These are some numerical values like as blood tests, urine tests, etc., etc. And sometimes the doctor will also ask for the ultrasound or some other type of this X-ray, etc. And then doctor tries to collaborate everything together. If by the numerical values, if there is a suspicion that there is something inside the body, the doctor is not going to open your stomach and see what is the trouble, but they will try to get an ultrasound, and then they will try to call it. One side is your numerical value, and say another type is the graphical view of the stomach from inside, and then they try to correlate. So this example addresses the very popular question which I get many times in the workshop. Sir, what should we use? Graphical tools or analytical tools? Analytical tools mean something like numerical values. So the answer is both of them have to be used, because data is deep and dumb. You have to use those statistical ways that can be analytical, that can be numerical, that can be graphical, whatever you want to do. You try to do it on the data to get the correct information which is hidden inside the data. That is as simple as that. And then third question, which I would like to address before I move further. Many times people do feel that if they try to use more number of graphics in their study, that is going to make their study better. I just ask a very simple question. If somebody goes to the doctor and doctor gives more number of medicine and say another doctor gives a less number of medicine for the same problem, which doctor would you like to prefer? Means obviously the doctor which gives you the required number of medicine. So unnecessarily increasing the number of graphics does not guarantee that your statistical analysis is getting better and better. Rather, every statistical graphic has some conditions. For example, if the data is discrete, categorical, you have to create a bar diagram. But if the data is on some continuous variable, like height, weight, age, then you cannot create the bar diagram, but you have to create the histogram. And similarly, if your data is categorical, like as 1, 2, 3, 4, you cannot make the histograms. So these are the basic understanding that you need to know from the statistical point of view, and then R is going to help you in creating graphics and then give you the numerical value. But after this is only you who has to take the correct decision. Right. For example, the pathologist does give you the numerical values, some those like an X-ray, etc. They will give you the graphical pictures, graphs about the same data set. Now the doctor has to combine both the things, and then the doctor has to take a proper call whether the judgments are correct or not. So that is the same statistic with the that is the same rule in the statistics also. So we need to have numerical data, we need to have graphical analysis. We also have to see what's really happening in real life. As a statistician, people do expect from me that I know each and everything. People will call, okay, sir, I have got a data from economics. Okay, sir, I've got a data from, says, from some medical experiment. And people do expect from me that I know all, which is not true. But this is my responsibility to talk to them and to understand what type of uh, experimental conditions they have used, under which I have to find out what type of data it can be and what type of problems this data can be, so that I can use the proper statistical tool. And when I come to the aspect of using the proper statistical tool, it is very important that you use the appropriate tool on the appropriate data. For example, if I take an example of test of hypothesis, well, means I'm not saying that you are expected to know each and everything, but I have seen people will use different types of tests blindly without thinking. So that becomes very difficult. It is something like this: if somebody is having a heart attack and the doctor asks him to go for X-ray instead of ECG. So that is very important to choose the correct statistical tool and the correct statistical graphics, numerical measures, analytical measures before you try to do anything. The risk becomes more when you are trying to deal with the data science, because data is coming automatically in most of the cases, or the data is so huge that you cannot analyze. So it is very important for you to first understand the nature of the data and then try to relate it with the required proper tool, and then you try to implement it. Once you implement the data and once you are confident that this is going to work, you simply implement it on the data, and then you have no option except to accept the outcome that you are going to get. So that is why this data scientist, or this becoming a data scientist, is a more challenging job. It is just like a doctor who is trying to deal with say more complicated disease. The doctor has to go into more detail to understand before taking any call. Right. So this is the thing now we are going to do, but surely given the time, I will try to give you here the basic things, and after that I will leave you to fly. Okay, so when we try to come on the graphic tool, there can be different graphical tool: two-dimensional plot, three-dimensional plot, scatter diagram, pie diagram, histogram, bar plot, etc., etc. There are many things that you can do, and even in R, actually, many beautiful graphics can be plotted very easily. I will try to show you here some of the things, and and another thing, they will depend on you that how you want to progress further. Now, the example which I am taking here, the size of data set which I am taking here, that is depending on my slides, the size of the slide. So if I make my slides very clumsy, possibly you cannot understand. So I'm trying to take very simple example, but they are going to magnify a very big problem. Right. So, okay, let me try to take here a very simple example. Suppose there are 10 persons which are coded as male and female, and we simply want to know that how many people are there in the categories A1 and A2. So you can see here in this data set what I've taken here. Right. One thing I can show you that how I am writing. I have got here a special this type of board, so I'm not writing on the screen. So I have to write it here somewhere, and then it is reflected on the screen. So that is why I have to use my this sense only to where to point so that I can write it at the right place. So sometimes you can see that I'm trying to write somewhere and it goes somewhere. So please don't feel bad about it. Right, I'm not writing directly on the screen. So now suppose if I say here there are two categories, say A1 and A2, which are indicating the male and female category. So you can see here that here there are 7 males and 3 female persons. So I can denote them here by here 7 and 3. And this number of observation in a particular category, that is called as absolute frequency. Right, you may think about it, okay, that's a very small thing, it's not important, but why should I do it here? But suppose if I take here this data set, can you really count here by hand? No, you have to take the help of a software. And the type of means a result which you are going to get, suppose means this is a data of say 10,000 people entering into a shopping mall. They can be male, they can be female. So now suppose you count that out of 1,000 these people, there are 900 males and 100 females. What does this indicate? Now here you need to have your own expertise to interpret different types of things. I would say that means mall has many things for males and it doesn't have many things for females. Or it may have many shops, but a basic amenities like as toilets for male and female are missing in the shopping mall, or the number of female toilets are very less, so people don't afford to come here. That can be there. It's, if you ask me, whenever I go outside, I have a daughter, I have a wife, so I always make sure that wherever we are going, they must have a clean toilets at least. So these are different types of things which you can draw from these type of inferences. Nobody can think by looking at the data of male and female. Somebody would try to popularize the shopping mall by creating more number of female toilets. And if you try to see this is correct, means in any shop, any shopping mall, means if you try to see a male toilet can accommodate say 10 to 20 people at a time, but a female toilet can accommodate only 3-4. So people don't go there. So this is data science. Statistics is only, okay, there are out of 1,000, there are 900 males and 100 females. Now this data science will come only after you can calculate it in an automated way. Right. So now on the other hand, well, we always say that if you can represent something in the percentage, then it is easier to understand. So there are 7 males and 3 females. So I try to express them in the form of a percentage. So I try to take here the number of males divided by total number of persons over here. Pardon?
The screen is not visible.
The screen is not visible. Okay. Wait. Means I will share again. Now?
Yes, sir.
Okay. I'm sorry, I don't know, something happened in this case. Okay.
Sir,
Anyway,
please share the PDF also, sir.
Yes,
As you did,
I did in the beginning itself. I think you came late in the class. That was my first slide.
Download the contents from here. Those who are asking in the group that I have to put the PDF in this WhatsApp group, you can download the contents directly from here. This had been announced by sir in the beginning.
That will be good.
Yes. So in fact, if you try to see, if you just go to Google to type my name, come to my homepage, you can see here there is a link here, MIT University. You just click over there, you will get the file MIT.pdf, and yeah, the name is the same as of yesterday's file, but the contents are different.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Right. So that was my first slide, and the same thing I will do tomorrow also.
Sir, excuse me. Sir, yesterday's content is still available, or it has been changed to today's?
It has been removed.
It has been
removed.
Removed. Okay, sir. Okay, sir.
You see, this is data science. You only want to cater those who are interested.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yeah, but if you want, I can share it with you.
Yes, sir.
That's not a big deal. But I always prefer that. Why should I share my slides with who are not interested? So those who are here, they are interested, so they will get it. So that is the data science, that you don't have to want to have only 200 participants, but you want to have only those participants who wants to listen. Right, because yeah, you can imagine that I mean, speaking for 6 hours, it requires energy.
Yes, sir. So please continue.
So okay, I had shown you these slides. If you have not seen the slides earlier, so I had taken this, and then yeah, this slide was important. Wait, I can show you. Yes, this slide was important. So here I have shown the absolute frequency, that there are 7 males and 3 females, and now means I'm trying to represent them in the form of percentage. So you can see here, this is the number of males and this is the number of total number of people. So I can express them in the form of percentage. So whenever I'm trying to represent the absolute frequencies in terms of percentage, this is called as relative frequency. So actually, relative frequency is more easier to interpret, because once you say, okay, out of 809 that there are 678 people, or say 6,078 people are male and remaining are female, it is difficult to understand. But if I say simply, if there are 66% people are male and 33% people are female, that makes sense. That is easy to understand. And in data science, it is very important that you have to give the interpretation in such a way such that people can understand it. For example, you can say the doctors give such a thing. They will simply say, okay, get your hemoglobin level tested. If that is below 12, that means you are not healthy. But if it is more than 12, you are healthy. Or they will try to give a range in which one can check the hemoglobin level, or there's something like cholesterol level, etc., etc. So these things do help us. Now the question here is this: how you can compute these things in the R software. So for that, we want to count the absolute frequency, and we want to count the relative frequency. So you can see here one thing, that what is the relationship between the absolute frequency and relative frequency. Absolute frequency is, suppose here, like the ABS frequency. So then the relative frequency becomes absolute frequency divided by total number of observations. So that is the concept which we are going to use here. Right. Okay. So in order to obtain the absolute frequency, we have a command here, table. And then you have to give the name of the variable for which you want to compute the absolute frequency. And so in case if I say now, what I will say here in general, this X is going to indicate here as a data vector. So for example, X can be some data vector here, some C, 1, 2, 10, etc., etc., etc. So that is our basic understanding. Right. So if you want to create an absolute frequency or the table from this data, you simply have to use here table X, and within the parenthesis, no curly bracket, no square bracket, only simple brackets. You simply write here table X, then it will give you absolute frequency. And if you see, there is a command here, length. Length is the command to count the total number of observations available in the data vector X. So I can use here the command here, length of X. So if I try to divide this table X by length of X, this will give us the relative frequency. Right. For example, if the same thing, if I try to take here that we have here 7 males and 3 females, which are denoted here as a male and female, like as M and F symbols, then now first thing what you have to do, yes, that is very important. You see, statistics has a limitation that statistics can work only with the numerical data. So statistics cannot work with your this here alphabets ABCD, but unless and until they are actually the character. So whatever the data you have got here as M or F, that has to be converted into a numerical one. So now what I do here, that I try to indicate this M and F as some numbers. So I take it here, M here as a 1 and female by here category 2. You can take anything actually. 0, 1, 100, whatever you want, that is not an issue at all. And then you have to write down this data into a data vector. So I call it here as a gender.
Sir,
and then
how we can convert this M to 1 and F to 2?
Actually, you can choose anything.
No,
If you ask me,
command line, how we can convert this?
Means in an automated way?
Sir, the data is saved in a vector. M in the form of MF. So how by which command I can convert this MF?
Yes. I'm coming to the same answer. You see, there are a couple of things which I would like to address. That's an interesting question. You see, first of all, whenever somebody wants to conduct the experiment, people try to make a mistake that they will first try to conduct the experiment, and then they come to the statistician that please analyze my data. And believe me, that's my experience, that many times people do not collect the correct data in the correct format. As a statistician, this is our job, that when somebody comes that, okay, I want to know the answer of this question, then it is our responsibility to look into the statistical tool to decide that which statistical tool is going to give the answer of this question. And then based on the condition of that statistical tool, I have to tell him how they have to collect the data. For example, if I want to know the frequency, I can simply say, okay, wherever you are getting a male, try to write down 1. Wherever you are getting a female, you try to write down here 2. That is the best option, but usually it will not happen because everybody in the world assume that, okay, he's a very good statistician, so they will try to collect the data in their own way. So now you have to convert this data in a way which is acceptable to the software. So one option is this: if you are trying any external source like Excel or etc. or say anything, or you simply say this control find and control replace M by 1, replace F by 2. That is the first, that means outside R. Within R, there is a command here, rep and grep. Right, means if you try to use here rep or grep, that will replace the rep is for replace and grep is for global replace. So it will, as you try to say control means replace 1 or replace all. So these are commands like this, but surely this was a part of our software, so I had not taken it here, but I believe that the data is here in this format. But surely with your question, I would try to explain you all that whatever you have asked, yes, these things are possible to get it done directly into the R software. You have to just suppose I don't know how to get it done, I will simply go to the Google and I will say, okay, replace command R software. Means I will surely get one of these things here. Right, and then yes, there is a way how you have to use this rep command, and then you can use it there. But I would request you, if you want to have it more detailed, I think possibly in my introduction to R software case that is freely available on the NPTEL site, I think in one of the lecture I have explained it. So if you want to have a look, possibly that video lecture will help you. Right. Okay, so now I believe that, okay, I have this data and I can convert into this type of data, 1, 2, 1, 2, and so on. Now this is my here data, and after that I simply have to give here the command here table gender, and then it will give us here this type of values 1, 2, 7, 3. So this you can see here, this gender is categorized into 1 and 2. So that is giving us here 1 and 2, and it is, and this is here the absolute frequency. That one has category, one has 7 values and 2 has 3 values. And if you want to do it in the terms of relative frequency, you simply have to write down this command table gender divided by length of gender, right? And then it will give you here like this. It will be here the category 1, which is now here 7 by 10, and category 2, this is here 3 by 10. So this will give, pardon?
My question is, like, here we are having the caption headings as 1 and 2. Instead of that, can we mention male and female? Because seeing
Yes.
the output, we can get to know like what exactly the output is all about.
Yes, yesterday I had given you a command names.
Okay.
So once it happens, after that you can rename them.
Okay, fine. Can you tell us how to do, sir?
Yeah. Yesterday I told you na command names. So just use that command over here, and possibly this will work. Although I never did it, but with 95% confidence, I can say that this will actually work.
Okay, sir, I'll try it.
It will work, sir. It will work. It will work.
Yeah. I never use. I said 95% confidence. I want to be on the safe side. So, but it is possible. Yeah, surely it is possible.
Thank you, sir.
Right. So let me try to show you here these things on the R console also. I can simply here this data, and I can share it with here on the new this R window. Oh. Sorry, I opened a wrong. Yes. You see here, I have simply made it here gender, and then here I can take a table. Right. And even if you try to make here some more categories here, suppose 3, 4, and here 5, 5, 6, and here 6. If you try to do it here, even this thing, then it will automatically create the categories. That category 1 has 7 numbers, 2 has 3 numbers, 3 has 1 number, and so on. Right. So that is how we try to do. And similarly, if you try to do here, if I try to do same thing here in terms of relative frequency, you can see here length of gender. That is giving you this. So means I can say that 43.75% people are in category 1, 18.75 in category 2, 6.25% in category 3, and so on. And yeah, I mean, the day before, I think a couple of days back, when I was trying to analyze the COVID data, the doctor was very excited after looking at the number of patient which had a particular symptom. She was very excited that, okay, this symptom is going to play a very important role. Now I can show you that how this is going to change the conclusion. From the absolute number, she was very excited that, okay, this is a very important factor that is going to affect the COVID. But when she converted into sort of this frequency in terms of relative frequency, then the total percentage was just 5%. 5% of the people only had that type of symptom. But the question was, she has a very huge data, from some past, and she wanted to. So in that, she was very confident that it is going to happen, but it didn't happen. So frequency and relative frequency, believe me, they are your first tool, which whenever the data comes to us, we try to simply find out the frequency and relative frequency to understand what is really happening inside the data. I can share with all of you that it's not only this data science. Whenever we try to do our simulation in our research also, this frequency, mean, standard deviation, etc., they are the most popular measure up to now. And when we go for our BSc statistics program, these are the first thing that is taught to us. And but I have seen that okay, these things are giving us very good insight, right? So similarly, you can actually find out the median also. For that, the command here is simply here, means I have not done it here, but you can find out here the median, right? And then harmonic mean, geometric mean. So median is still popular in the data science, but definitely nobody goes for the geometric mean and harmonic mean. So I have not added it here. And the most popular tool in the this sorry, I lost my. Okay, I thought that okay, I'm in the central tendency. Okay, sure. Sorry, I take my words back. Right. Yeah, after that I come to for the partition values. Now, whenever we are trying to get the data, we always want to see that how much is the percentage in different categories, and we want to compare them. Now, let me try to let me give you a real life example. You must have heard from different students that there is a particular board of class 12 that gives gives easy marks, or say call it as a loose marking, and somebody says that okay, that board does the tight marking. Tight marking means you will get less mark. Loose marking means you will get more marks for the same answer. Right, and then people have different types of hypotheses. The fact is this: nobody has ever tested those hypotheses, but people do believe that okay, this particular board will give us less marks, and this particular board will give us more marks. I'm sure that you must have heard about such statements. Suppose now your question is that suppose now the Yosemite University decides that this year they cannot conduct the entrance examination because of this pandemic, and now they have to admit the students on the basis of their marks of class 12. How they will do? Suppose there is a board 1 which is saying, for which it is believed actually that it gives a loose marking, and there is board 2 which is giving us a very tight marking. So now what will really happen, that if the marks are out of 100, then in the board 1 somebody is getting say this 80% marks, and in board 2 somebody is getting only 50% marks. But if the marking is loose, I would believe that it might be possible that the person who has got the 50% marks, that student might be as good as the 80% marks of the board 1. But now the question is, how will you do it? If you simply go by minimum and maximum marks, is it really going to work? Not really. In our classrooms also, we have seen that sometimes students say that okay, this teacher gives the hard marking, and this teacher gives the soft marking. So now if you try to compare the performance of the student based only on their marks, based on their minimum and maximum, surely that is not going to work. So what we have to do here, one option is to use the partition values. For example, those who have means are dealing with the say BSc first year students, or those who are know about the JEE examination, joint entrance examination of IITs. So when we try to conduct the JEE Advanced, which is the examination for the IITs, there is a condition that all those students who are in the top 20 percentile of their board examination, they are eligible to appear in the examination. That means only those students who are in the top 20 percentile of their respective boards, only they can appear in the examination. Many times people do confuse that it is percentage. No, percentage is different, percentile is different. And now I will try to show you that how this concept of percentile helps actually. So this partitions value, what they try to do, that they try to divide the total frequency. Total frequency means, as you said, the total absolute frequency, 7 plus 3. They try to divide the total data into required number of partitions, and when the total frequency is divided into 4 equal parts, then it is called as quartiles. When this is divided into 10 equal parts, it is called as deciles. When it is divided into 100 equal parts, this is called as percentile. Now, what do you really do? Now, let me try to first take this example, and then I will try to explain to you. Suppose in board number 1, which is giving the loose marking, we try to take, suppose, all the students, and then we try to see what is the minimum marks and maximum marks. So this is here your board 1. I try to plot here minimum and here maximum marks. So it is possible that it is the minimum marks here are 50 and maximum marks here are say 100. And now we have here board 2, which is assumed to, it is giving us the hard marking. So it might be possible that here the minimum marks are 10 and the maximum marks are only 60. So now how to compare the two? If you simply go by the minimum and maximum, no student of board 2 will possibly be able to complete the examination. So what we can do here, I can compare, I can create here a scale between the minimum and maximum. So what will happen, this minimum 50 will be equated to this 10 and this maximum 100 will be equated to this 60. And then in between, I try to divide this range into 4 equal parts or say 100 equal parts. So every partitioning which is happening here, this value on the x-axis, that will be called as partition value. So when I say that I want to have here the top, the students in the top 20 percentile, that means I have made here 100 partition, 0, 1, 2, up to here, somewhere here 100. And now I'm saying something here 80. So I'm going to get here 80 percentile here. This is the range for the 80 percentile. It is not percentage. Believe me, many people are confused with this thing. The 80% of board 1 and 80% of board 2, they are comparable, but not as such. They are different types of percentages. But when you are trying to compare the percentiles, I mean 80th percentile of board 1 and 80th percentile of board 2, I'm saying they are nearly the same. So it might be possible that the 80th means 80th percentile of board 1 may be close to say here 75, and the 80th percentile of board 2, that may be close to suppose only here 40. So now means any student who has got more than 75%, 75 marks, or say more than 75% marks in the board 1, and any student who has got more than 40% marks in the board 2, both are eligible to participate in the examination, and they can be considered in their board, and then based on the percentile they can merit list can be prepared. So that is the basic idea of the partitioning value. So these values gives us a very good information that how the things are happening, and when you are trying to deal with this data sciences, you are going to get millions and billions of observations, and people are always more interested in finding out the partition value. For example, many times you can see people are, instead of asking the arithmetic mean, people are trying to find out the median. Yes, median is the central tendency that I started by mistake earlier, but median is also the partition value. Median divides the entire frequency into two equal parts, this side, that side. And what will happen if your data has lots of variability? Suppose you have students which somebody has got 1 mark, somebody has got 100 marks. In that case, means there can be some extreme value also, or if you try to take the age of the participant, then means if I try to take here one simple example, say 2 plus 3 plus 4 divided by here 3, that is the arithmetic mean. So this is equal to 3. But if I try to take here one more observation, 2, 3 plus here 40 upon here 3, right, this will nowhere close to 30, but this will be very high. So this is the arithmetic mean which is getting badly affected by the extreme value like as 40, but the median, which is the partitioning value, and it is equivalent to using the arithmetic mean also that I will show you, the median of 2, 3 and 40 will still remain as 3, because this is the middlemost value. So median is not affected by these extreme values, and that is the advantage of having this partitioning value. I'm not saying that median or mean is not important at all, but these are different tools which have to be used in the proper way. So partitioning values, they will try to divide the total data into certain number of points. These points can be equal, these points can be unequal, whatever you want. And then you can compare the tendency of the data to concentrate at any particular points.
Sir,
Right.
Salab sir, may I ask?
Yes, you're sure.
As far as variability of the data is concerned, the extreme values are affecting a lot. Once we are computing the quantiles, suppose my data, I have students of 100 students in my class. 2 students got 1 marks, and the next higher value is 20 and onwards. So whenever, if I calculate the quantiles, the data value will be extremely skewed.
Yes, agreed, completely.
So how we can deal with this type of problems?
You see, exactly. So actually you are trying to ask a very simple question, that how to handle the skewed data. Right.
Yeah.
So you see, in skewed data, well, I have not, maybe I have not yet handled the topic of variable.
Okay, sir, when you handle that, you kindly explain that.
Sure. I think after some time I will be coming to this absolute deviation, mean deviation. Then you please remind me if I forget.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Right. So I think, but yeah, that's an interesting question. I will try to address it. That will be very useful. Actually, what you have said, that is one of the biggest problem in the data. That well, I can give you one thing, that whenever there is an extreme value in the data, actually when the data comes, before applying to the statistical tool, there is a process of data cleaning. Right. Yeah. So we try to look into the data and we try to see which is outlier, which is extreme value. Actually, as far as the value is concerned, there is no difference between the extreme value and outlier. But the only thing is this is only we have to judge whether this data is the part of the study or not, or it is coming by mistake. When the data is coming by mistake, I can call it as an outlier. But if the data is a part of a study, then it is not an outlier and we need to handle it. And believe me, in statistics, there is a whole branch which is called as extreme value distributions. So they actually try to address those things. But yeah, talking about extreme value distribution is difficult at this moment. It is possible, provided means Anuradha asked me to continue for the next 2 months, means every day from 9 to 5. Right. So yeah, but what you are saying, this is correct, and this is the correct answer. I will simply say the moral of the story, or the moral answer of your question is, you have to be very careful whenever there is an outlier or extreme value in the observation. It is simply like this. If I teach my students, usually their age is between 20 to 24 years. Someday I go to the class and I see that, okay, there is a person who is of say 40 years age. Now, whether this person is an outlier or outlier or extreme value, this means simply trying to say that, okay, whether this student is a part of my class or he or she has come by mistake in my class. If he or she has come by mistake in my class, then I will request that you go to your proper class, but if not, he or she will stay in my class. So this is how we have to judge. So I need to ask the student, get more information, then I have to confirm whether she is my real student or she is a student of some other class. In fact, that has happened. I think a couple of weeks back, there was a news in the newspaper that one student of IIT Roorkee, she passed many years back. Now she is around 55 years old and she has qualified the GATE examination. Like usually you will see in the GATE examination after doing the BTech or BSc, people do appear. So their average age is between 23, 24 to 25 years, but she was 55. So, but she is not an outlier. She is an extreme observation only. So that has to be handled in the
Sir, the extreme observations in the nature, the natural events are like extreme observations. So we have to deal that problems.
Yes.
Natural events with this extreme value theorem or some this distribution or something like that.
Yes.
So I may contact you later on. I am after this course or so.
Yeah, sure. Means
so discuss all these things. In
sir,
fact, we have made
a very simple answer. If arithmetic means worse at every place, the government will not give me salary next month. So means there has to be statistical problem, which is my bread and butter. Right. So yeah, surely means we have to deal with that. But definitely when trying to deal with skewness and curtices, I will try to address once again this issue that is in my slides.
Okay. Thank you, sir.
Right. Okay. So now I think I have given you a fair idea that why should we use the quantile, and what is the difference between quantiles and percentile. Means if anybody has any doubt, please ask me, because this is a concept which I believe that most of the people don't know. Means even I'm talking of very learned people who are taking the decision at a country level. Sometimes they also get confused.
Explain it again, sir. Quantile and percentile.
Yeah, and believe me, and why I'm saying there is an incident behind my mind, I can share with you all. In 2018, I was the organizing chairman of this JEE, means the Joint Entrance Examination of IITs. So there we have to get this 80th percentile from different boards of all the countries. Believe me, I saw that at many times they are trying to make a computational mistake. We had called a meeting and we explained them how to compute the quantiles in the correct way, because that's the question of the career of the students and their future. So that is such a serious thing, but that helps us a lot in comparing the good and bad. So in our software, my objective is I want to compute this quantiles. So the simple function here is quantile, Quantile, and then inside the parenthesis we have to give here the data vector, and after that you will see there are, whenever I am writing here this ... that means first step, you please go to the help menu and try to see what is there in the quantile. There are many options, and you can you can get the desired results just by choosing those suitable options. Right. It is just like this. Whenever we go to the tailor for stitching a suit, I will say, okay, collar should be like this, button should be like this and that. So that is something like this. If you go with the different options, you can compute many things, but handling everything is difficult for me, and more important, you will get completely bored. So I have taken only representative examples here, but I request you to do it yourself. So, okay, so that is the one thing. So this will give you some outcome. Another option which I want to illustrate here is that quantile X with a function here props. Do you know props is probabilities? Probabilities are always between 0 and 1. So whenever we are trying to find out the percentile, suppose if I say there will be 100 percentiles here, 100 partitions. So I can make a one-to-one correspondence between the probability and a quantile. Means if I say probability is equal to 0.3, that means this is corresponding to 30% probability, and that is corresponding to the 30th percentile of the given data set. So that is why here we try to specify the probabilities, for example, and then you can define it in your way. For example, I have taken only a representative example, sequence 0 to 1, 0.25. That means it will begin from 0 and it will end at 1 at an interval of 0.25. That means it will give us the 25th, 50th, 75th and 100th quantile. That is your quartile. Yeah, be careful about this language. Quantiles and quartiles. Quartiles is the 4th partition and quantiles is the general partition. And similarly, if I try to, if you want to do it as something else, suppose you want to have a 10th percentile, or if you want to have, then you want to have 35th percentile and so on. So you just give it here 0.10 and 0.35, and it will give you only there the 10th and 35th percentiles. Right. So this is how. So now I have just taken here a very simple example. Suppose we have data on say monthly per capita expenditure, say MPCE, and I have just taken some values over here. Right. MPC is a value which the Government of India uses in many of its survey. So now I want to find out its quantiles and quartiles. So if you try to see here, if I use here the quantile over MPCE, this will give me this type of outcome. So this is 0%, 25%, 50%, 75%, 100%. So you can now, can you see here, what is the minimum and maximum value in this one? Minimum value is somewhere here. And what is here the maximum value?
3,000.
Right. So now you can see here in this outcome, what is this 0%? And what is this here 100%? These are the minimum and maximum value. We have fixed the upper and lower limits. In between, I am trying to partition it into different parts. So this is here the 25%, 50%. So the 25th quantile is 104. That means there are 25% values which are lying between 640 and 1004. Similarly, if I take here 75th%, this is here 1552. So I can see here, say the means all those suppose I want to know that how to decide that whether the person is getting the income which is more than MPCE of 75th percentile, that how many people are there in this country who are getting the income which is more than 75th percentile. And suppose I want to put them into the higher income group and I would like to make a surcharge of income tax on them. So I will say, okay, simply try to get the collect the data on the people of the income of the people of this country and simply trying to find out the 75th percentile. Anybody who is coming out to be more than 75 percentile, he will have to give say 5% more income tax. But my problem is this, people will say, how do I know whether I am lying in the 75th percentile or not? So that is why they have taken the data. They have computed the 75th percentile. Suppose it is coming out to be 1552. So as an administrator, I will say, okay, anybody who is getting the salary more than 1500, they will have to pay 5% tax more. As simple as that. Right. And similarly, suppose if you want to do the same exercise, suppose so it is actually giving you the quartiles, means 4 partitions. And I just want to show you here that if you try to use here the props function, so this is at 0, 0.25, 0.5, 0.75 and 1. So it will show you here the same partitions and it will give you here the same value which you have obtained here by this thing. So what the model of the story here is that when you are trying to write down the quantile without any props, then the quartiles are the then you are getting the quartiles as a default values. Right. Can you just excuse me? I think Sher Anuradha is trying to call me. I will just pick up her call. Yeah, extremely sorry. There was a Mr. Truecaller said that is Anuradha. So I said possibly Dr. Anuradha Mishra is calling, but it was somebody else. I thought that she's trying to say something about this workshop. Sorry, I don't pick up the call during my classes, but I thought that this is from Anuradha, so I should accept it.
Sir, this props can be given by a vector generated by SEP. Is it possible?
Yes. Actually, yeah, that's what I was going to now tell you here. That actually for this props, you can use anything, sequence or values or anything actually. This can be a single value also. Suppose you want to find out the 35th percentile. Right. So in that case, you can simply just give here props is equal to 0.35. Whatever you want, sequence, repetition, whatever you want. That has to be only a value which is between 0 and 1. Right. OK. I think you can just remove this part because yeah, means because I had taken the data from an Excel file. But anyway, that will not make any difference. So similarly, if you try to see here, I have taken here the 0, 20%, 40%, 60%, 80% means 5 intervals. So then you are getting here 0%, 20%, 40%, 60%, 80% and 100% quantiles actually. Right. So this is how you can compute. Now, so what you can do, suppose you are getting, suppose I want to take actually that was a sort of real example which we handle. There was a website and they wanted to know that whether what is the distribution of males and females who are coming to visiting their websites. So now you can understand that whenever you are trying to create the login for a website, they always get your information that whether the person is male, female, age, income, etc., etc. So they simply tried to collect the information and then they were more interested in knowing whether in a particular section of the clothings, whether males are going more or females are going more. It means, for example, if you ask me, I would try to buy the dress for me, but for my wife and daughter, I will always try to go to the clothing for the girls section or female section. So this is what they wanted to study, these types of things. But usually, I mean, that is our hypothesis that the males will not be looking into the garments for the females, because yeah, it is very difficult, at least for me, to understand. Right. So anyway, so they wanted to see this distribution. So we collected the data and we compared their respective quantiles. So that gave us a better insight that what is really happening, then rather than simply counting the process. So right. So anyway, so now I come to say here another aspect of here graphics and plots. One thing I can tell you that in graphics and plots in R, means I would say sky's the limit. That's my simple answer. But definitely in the next 1 hour or 2 hours, you cannot fly. Because if you want to fly, you have to first take the training of astronaut. It takes some time, but surely I will try to give you example here that these things can be drawn here. Okay, let me try to first give you this example R console itself. Sorry, I forgot. So let me try to copy this data and let me come to R console. Right, and if you try to say here, if I ever try to write down here quantiles, you get the correct answer. You can see here. And if you try to write down here quantile props 0.76, you'll get here this 76% value. And if you try to make it here, give here more values, say 0.76, etc., you will get here. Right. And if I really want to know what is the value of the top 20%, so I can simply give here props is equal to 0.8. Remember one thing, top 20 is the 80th percentile because top is from the upper side. So I can say here means anybody who has got the MPC more than 1790, that is that will fall in the category of 80% or more percentile value. Right. Okay. So it is not difficult. Now actually what you can do that you can take now a small data set or different data sets, whatever you are handling in your area, and then try to just use whatever we are going to do today. You try to expose it to your data set and try to understand it there. You will get very interesting observations. Right, okay, so when we come to the graphical tool, there are 2-dimensional graphics, 3-dimensional graphics, scatter diagram, pie diagram, histogram, etc., etc. So as I said, whenever you are trying to do these things, you have to just use the appropriate number of choices of plots in analysis. Don't try to exert too much. Right, okay. So now we have different option, bar chart, pie chart, box plot, and there is a very long list actually, but I have taken here some representative plots which I can do in the given time frame. So first of all about the bar plot, and then yeah, means I have chosen intentionally those graphics which you know, which for example, I know that means if I talk for QQ plot, which I'm going to do it, possibly many of you might not be knowing, so you will not be able to understand, but graphic like bar diagram, histogram, etc. I'm sure that everybody knows. So that is why I'm trying to take those things here, right? So okay, so now you all know about the bar diagram. Bar diagram is always made whenever you have a categorical data. Categorical data means suppose you classify the patients into male and female, or you try to classify them into elder, say younger children, say by this 1, 2, 3, and so on. So that will be a categorical data actually. So now you want to know, you want to create the bars for every category. So it will actually look like that bar for category 1, bar for category 2, bar for category 3, and so on. Right. So now the height of the bar, this is going to indicate the frequency. Now this frequency can be depending on your choice, what you want to have. whether it means that can be the absolute frequency, that can be relative frequency, and so on. Right. So now let me try to give you here a very simple example, and then I will tell you more things. So the command here is bar plot, then the data here, and this is indicating here a parameter here width. It's an optional one. Width means that is trying to control the width of the bar plot, like this width. Right, and then space. Space means the space between these two bar plots, and after that you will see here there is a long list of the option. Means I would request you at the same time I am giving you half a minute. You try to just go to the RStudio and try to see here bar plot, and then try to see to the help bar plot. Try to see how many options are there. And then you can see there are many options, and every option is trying to control one parameter of the bar chart, that is indicating one particular property of the bar chart. Now I can tell my R in a better way than anything else. If you go to any software where you have to only do click, there usually you will not have that much of control that you can control all the parameters of your graph. Suppose I want the width to be thin or thick, or I want to change the color, I want to control the spacing, I want to write something on the x-axis, something on the y-axis, I want to create chart of the means title of the bar chart, I want to write something inside the bar, I want to divide the bar, etc. All the things are possible in R. The only thing is this: you have to decide whether you want to spend your 5 lakhs of rupees for buying the software, or you want to have it as your own Radeon. That is the simple question that you have to keep in mind. But the advantage is that you have to create that command only once. And suppose you are working at some country level. Suppose I am working in the country level and I want, or I would say that suppose I am working in MIT. There are different branches of MIT University across the India, and I want to see the distribution of the students. Now I ask all the universities to collect the data on the age of the student. Now somebody is putting the BSc student, and MSc, somebody is trying to put the MSc student first, BSc student later, somebody is using black color, somebody is using black and white color, somebody is using red, green, blue color, etc. Rather, if I simply tell them, please collect the data on the ages of the student and use this command. Now, all the graphics from all the branches of MIT University across the country, across the world, they are going to be same. And if you try to put them together, you can very easily interpret them, and you can very easily understand them. So that is the advantage in the R, that means everything is in your control. Right. So that is the thing. Okay. So for example, here I have given you the same thing which I asked you to do it. Now you can see here I have simply copied from the help bar plot these things. There are so many options. The only thing is this: you have to just go to the help menu, and then you have to understand what are the interpretation of these things. Right. And yes, whatever I have told you here, that is going to remain valid for all sorts of graphic, whatever I am going to give you here briefly. Right. So suppose if I take here that one thing that whenever you are trying to use here the bar plot, then your data has to be there in the form of here X. Now you have to now think from the basic fundamental. When you are trying to create the bar plot, you want to create the bar plot for the original data, or you want to create the bar plot for the data inside the categories. So the answer is you are trying to create the bar plot for the data inside the categories, category 1, 2, 3. So that means your first step is that your data is coming as 1, 2, 3, 4, etc. You have to first categorize it, and for that you have to use the command table first. The table will convert that data into the categories, and then you need to plot the bar diagram on those categorical data, means categories data. I will not call it as a categorical data because that is something else, right? So basically, first you have to convert your X into table of X, and then you have to create the bar plot. But surely the length will remain the same because length is the number of observations in X. So right, so now let me try to take here the same example that I took. So I have here the data on gender, and I try to create here a bar plot. So I simply say here bar plot gender. Now you can see here, are you getting the required information which you wanted? No, because you have only here two categories. But what you have done by mistake, which is a very common mistake, that people try to forget here, write the table command here. And that is very obvious because in many softwares, as soon as you use the bar plot, they will try to automatically convert the data into tabular data, and then they will try to create the bar plot. Right. Okay, so instead of this, if you try to use here this bar plot table gender, so you had seen that in the table gender you had this type of outcomes, 7 male, 3 female. So now you can see here category 1 has here 7 values and category 2 here is 3 values. So that is the bar. Now if you want to change here the color, you want to write something on the x-axis, y-axis, everything is in your control, I promise you. And similarly, if you try to see if you want to get it in the terms of relative frequency, so you can just divide the table gender by the length of gender. So now everything is divided by 10. So 7 will become here 0.7, 3 will become 0.3, and you can see here this is here the height at 0.7, and this is here the height as 0.3. So this is how you can do it. And believe me, this bar plots makes a magic when you are trying to deal with the real data, when you have very large number of data, right? And similarly, if I try to take say here one more data set, suppose there are some household serial number like a 1, 2, 3, 4, means I'm just trying to take an example where you have more than 2 categories. So you can see here you have data category 1, category 2, category 3, category 4, then category 1, 2, 3, and so on. So if you try to create here the bar plot on this data, you will get this type of picture, which is simply showing that here first observation is at 1, second observation 2, but this is the thing which you don't want. You want here like this, that you categorize the data and tell me how many people are there in category 1, 2, 3, and 4. So for that, you simply try to convert here the table, and then you try to create the bar plot. Yeah, sometimes you will see here that this height is going here, but you have what you don't have here, this any value here 9 or 10. So for that, actually this is a recursive process. Once we get this type of data, then there is an option there to control the minimum and maximum value on the x and y axis. We can just control that okay, this is between say 0 and 10, 0 and 20, whatever you want. Right, okay, and sometimes actually when we are trying to compare different types of data set, then we have to give it there, because yeah, somebody's data may have minimum and maximum value in a different way, so they will not be comparable, because you can see here that this height is proportional to the this range. So if I try to make it here the height here 100, possibly this curve will become like this. So that is always a better idea to fix the minimum and maximum values of the data set by yourself when you are trying to compare different data sets. For example, somebody can say that, okay, I'm getting the data from Amazon and I'm getting the data from Flipkart, how to compare them? Okay, they may have different parameters, but then I would try to create this type of information, to insert this type of information. And yeah, I mean, if you want to have relative frequency, you can simply get here relative frequency here. Right, so let me try to show you these things first on the R software also. So you can also do if you wish. I'm simply trying to copy the data here, and then I will try to plot the gender. And then I will try to show you that what will happen if you try to do this thing in the R Studio and in the R. This is my here gender. If I try to make a mistake here, and if I try to simply say bar plot gender, see here, this is now a different window is open here, and we are observing this graph on this window. And if you want to save as, just right click, copy as, meta file, bitmap, save as, etc., etc. All these things are there. And but if you try to see, means there will be a different window, and then you will have to do everything yourself. But in the RStudio, everything will be visible at the same time. But if you try to make it here, bar plot on the table, then you can see here now this is clear. Right, suppose if I want to change the color here, then I have to use here the option here, color is equal to C. Say here, if I want to here, say first to be blue and another to be here green, so I can make it here like this. Achha, blue is not found. Yeah, there is a color coding for this graphics. So, achha, there is actually oh, it has to be given in the W's. Right, so whatever you, yeah, I mean, say, yeah, that is what you have to see from the help, that whether you have to green and blue inside the double quotes or as normal, right? So anyway, that is not a very difficult thing. And similarly, if you wish, you can try with the second example also. That is not difficult for this household. And yeah, means if you want to have with respect to the relative frequency also, you can give it here by length of, say here, gender. See here, now you can, okay, I am sorry. Yeah, this is what you have to be clear in mind, where you have to put the bracket. Wait. Here, this is with here 7, and now if you try to put this bracket here inside the this thing, see here, 0.7 and here 0.3, right? So well, all these things are possible. If I try to take here the household thing here, and if I try to make it here the bar plot, table, and I can now show you. So suppose I forget to put here my bracket, this will give me here plus sign, plus sign, but as soon as I put here bracket, this will give me here this outcome. Right. So anyway, now it is up to you that how beautiful you want to make this here curve. And yeah, let me come back to my slides. Can you see the slides? Yes. Okay. That is the same thing which I just shown you here. And similarly, if you want to create here a pie diagram also, that is not difficult. The command here is only here PIE pie, and then you have to give the data exactly in the same formats. If you want to give some here labels, names, that you can also do. And you know that in the pie diagram, what we try to do here, that the values, it is something like it will try to give us different types of sections in which the magnitudes are proportional to this angle actually. When this angle is more, this area is more. So if you want to create such diagram, pie diagram for the gender, means again I'm using here the gender, but remember one thing, this is a wrong thing, because we want to create the pie diagram for the categorical or the category data. And so first we need to categorize the data. So that will be actually table gender. So if you try to make it here by table gender here, this will here come like this. And if you want to make it here for the household serial number, this will come here like this. Right, and similarly in this case also you can control everything. You can write something over here, something over here. You can control different types of names, colors, etc. Whatever you want, that is very easy. Right, so let me try to first show you here that how to create this pie diagram. It is not difficult actually. Now you know that you simply have to just write the data. Right. See here, this is your pie diagram, and similarly if I want to pie down on the gender, so gender will be here like this, because 1 2 1 2. But now if I try to make it here table gender, you can hear like this.
Sir, how we can write in this pie table gender, how we can write something instead of 1 and 2, I want to write male, female and percentage or something.
Yes. That is exactly, I told you that if you just go to the help menu actually, for example, means if I suppose I had shown you earlier that how to change the color. Right. So similarly, as I said, means you have to go to the help menu and then you have to just read. I can just show you here. And yeah. If you try to see here, these are the different options which you have to use here. For example, if you use here ligand test beside and then this here names.arg, name.arg will give you the name inside this thing, x limit, y limit. They will give you the minimum and maximum value on the x-axis and y-axis. That is exactly I told you, and I asked you to have a help menu. After this, you will see the interpretation of each and every parameter. So there at that moment, I will request you at this moment to have a look. Otherwise, if you are not able to find, I can tell you after that. There are many options. I'm telling you, my objective here is just to make you comfortable, so that you should be comfortable and confident in assuming, yes, I can also prepare a bar plot. I can also prepare a pie chart, for which I was spending so much of money on my software. After that, whatever you want, you can do it. The only thing is that it will not be click, but you simply have to just understand once what you really want to do, and then you can just do it. As simple as that. If you ask me, I will also go to the help and I will try to see that which option is for there to write something inside this one, and I will also do the same thing.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Right, because you see, means if I ask you practically, if you ask even me, I don't remember all the commands, even I don't know all the interpretation of all these options. But whenever I have to use it, I will simply go to the help menu and I will try to read it. That is the way I work in the software. Right. And similarly, then we have here a histogram also. Histogram is actually used when the data is continuous. What is the meaning of this continuous and this discrete data from the application point of view? Suppose if I take the data on, say, height, weight, age, etc. Now, if I say height, that can be 1.3 meter, or that can be 1.31 meter, that can be 1.313 meters, and at whatever accuracy or whatever point you can always measure it. But when we are trying to take the data on the number of students can be whole number like a 1, 2, 3, 4, etc. There cannot be a student whose number is 1.5. So this type of data where the values are taken only at particular points, that is categorized. That can be, in a very rough sense, I would say, that can be called as a discrete data. And when the discrete data or the continuous data is categorized into categories like as 1, 2, 3, 4, then it is called as categorical data. And when we have the data on which we can data on a variable on which we can take observation continuously, that will be a sort of continuous data. For example, height, weight, and age can also be a continuous, like as some years or some years, some months, some years, some months, some days, etc. So whenever you are trying to deal with the continuous data, then you are going for histogram. And in the case of discrete data, you have to go for discrete as well as categorical data. You have to go for bar diagram, and this pie chart, etc. The only thing is this: what you have to keep in mind when we are trying to do the bar chart, then only the height is important. The width is not important. But when we are trying to do with the histogram, I believe that you know that it is a graph like this much and so on. Right. These are also the bars, but those bars are joined together. So the basic difference between bar chart and histogram is that in the bar chart, the heights are important and the frequency is proportional to the heights. But in the histogram, the area of the bar, that is proportional to the frequency of that category. But usually you will see that whenever you are trying to create the histogram, the bars are of the same size, because then it becomes easier to compare them. For example, if I try to create here a histogram which this much of width and this much of width, they may look different, but if you try to see the total frequency which is contained inside this area and this area, that may be the same. So that is why, in order to make the things simplified, we always try to take the width of the bar to be the same, so that only I can compare different data sets with respect to only the heights. Right. So now, when you are trying to compare, when you are trying to create the histogram based on the frequency, then you have two options. Either you try to use absolute frequency or you try to use the relative frequency. So whenever you are trying to use the absolute frequency, then the command here is simply HIST, and inside the parenthesis, this is X. And in case if you want to find it in terms of the relative frequency, then you have to take here, you have to use here an option frequency, FREQ, short form, equal to capital F. Okay, one thing more. Yesterday we had talked about the true and false, which are the logical operators. So in R there are two options. Either you write capital TRUE, or you can simply write here capital T and capital F will indicate false. So both of the things are possible. You can use any one, but only T or F, either true or false, or you T or F. Don't try to use only say TR for T. So the frequency is here false. That means it will give you the histogram with respect to the relative frequencies. And I'm promising you, you just try to have a look into the help histogram. You will see all sorts of things, whatever are there. Now tell me one thing. Here I have created a histogram of gender. Does it make any sense? Certainly not. But the problem is this: R does not have brain. R doesn't know statistics. So once you try to create the histogram on the gender, it will give you the histogram 1 to 1.2 and 1.8 to 2. And it is simply showing that, okay, there is no value in between, but it has no meaning. So please don't try to do these things. People are doing it actually. So that is why I thought that I will take this example, because that's a categorical variable. So there you try to prepare the bar plot, not the histogram. Right. On the other hand, if you try to take here the data on the MPCE, which was the income or suppose expenditure. Expenditure can be any value actually. Means I may be spending 100 rupees a day. Somebody might be spending 100.1. Somebody might be spending 100.2, and so on. So in case if you try to create the histogram of this MPCE, you can see here, this is the value here, that there are almost 7 values or 6 values between 500 and 1000. There are about 15 values which are between 1000 and 1500 and so on. So this will give you the histogram here. Right. Okay, but before okay, let me try to take one more topic and then I will try to come to the R software. That will be easier for me. Okay, sometimes you have seen that you want to create more than 2 graphics at the same place. For example, I want to create here a graphic in which I want to combine here one graphic here, one graphic here, one graphic here, one graphic here. Now, how to get it done? Right, so I will try to take here one very simple example to show you that how it is being actually done. For that, actually, we try to use here the parameter command here, par, P-A-R. This command will put the multiple graphics in a single plot. So what we try to do here, the way we try to use it here, it is PAR, and inside the parentheses we write MF row is equal to say C, and inside the parenthesis P comma Q. So this is indicating that how many rows and how many columns are there in the graphic, whether there are 2 graphics in one row or there are 2 graphics in each of the 3 rows to accommodate 6 graphics and so on. Right. So for example, I try to take my data on the household and other things, and I try to show you. Suppose I want to create here a graph like this one, that 2 graphics in this particular side by side. So I can set here first PAR, MF row is equal to C1, 2. Number of rows is 1, number of column is here 2. And then I try to create here 2 diagrams, say bar plot and say this pie diagram, and I want to put them side by side. So after my first step will be that you try to use this command, then you try to give the second command for the bar plot and third command for the pie diagram, and you will see that this type of graphics will appear. Right, and if you write a program or you write a function, you simply have to write these 3 lines in a single program, and then automatically you will get a graphic like this one. That this is your here bar diagram, and this is your here pie chart together. And similarly, if you want to make it here like as vertical, means one graph here, then you have to give here number of rows to be 2 and number of columns to be here 1. And then you can give here both the commands bar plot and pie diagram, and you will get here this type of picture. And then whatsoever command you are giving first, that will appear on the top, and whatsoever you are giving in the second position that will appear at the second place, and so on. Right, so now let me try to come to your R console and try to first show you this thing, histogram part. Right, and if you wish, you can also try it yourself. I am simply going to copy and paste the data and then those things over here. But
sir, this would be the last topic for this session.
Yes. In the next 2 minutes, I will finish.
Okay, sir.
Right, so if you try to see here, we already have the data on here MPCE, so I can say here histogram of here MPCE. See here, that is not difficult actually. Right, and even if you want to change this here, this title on the MPCE and frequency, you can just look into the help, and that can be done very easily. And suppose I want to create here 2 graphics in a 1:2 mode, suppose. Suppose I can say here, say, suppose I want to create a histogram and a bar plot. So I can use here the same command here, npce, it will come here. Now I will say here pi of enter. You can see here, this comes over here. And in case if I try to change my this parameter here 2 and here 1, you can see here, this will come like this here. Suppose I take the pie chart here first, it will come here. Then I try to make it here, say histogram, it will come here. Right, so you can see here that it is not difficult at all actually. Right, and similarly, if you want to have here, say here, 3 things together, right? So I can have here histogram here first, then here pi here, and then suppose I want to find out here the bar plot also. So do you think that is it a very difficult thing? You simply have to write this in a small function, and as soon as you execute it, it will be done. Right, so I will now stop here with
I think sir has some internet issue and he has he is not in the meeting. Yeah, sir has left. Maybe there is some internet issue. So should I invite or can we take the questions after the lunch?
yes.
He's back. He's back.
Sorry, but this time there was no failure of internet, but by mistake I just click on
Yeah,
the.
that is what I was announcing, sir. That by mistake maybe you have left the meeting.
Yes. So I think so now I have given you the idea of 2-dimensional graphic, but this is not the end actually. This is only the beginning, and then after that I will try to give you some idea about the 3-dimension and some other types of graphics which are possible in the next lecture. So yeah, if you have any queries, you can ask. Can you hear me?
Sir. So whenever we are defining the histogram and all, like
Pardon?
for the histogram or the bar graph, for the
Madam, I
categorical.
cannot. Madam, I cannot listen to you. There is some background noise coming.
So am I audible now, sir?
Yes, now it is audible.
So whenever we are doing the histogram or the bar graph for categorical variables, so we need to define that.
Madam, bar diagram is only for categorical variable.
Yes, sir.
And
Yes,
histogram is for continuous variable.
continuous. Okay, bar graph for categorical variables. So when we are giving it, like we need to define like 1 is for what and 2 is for suppose male and female. So there, how do we define that? Like in Excel, we can.
That is your choice. That is the job of the statistician actually. Because 1-2 is only an internal transformation. After that, inside the bar, you can always change the labels and change the names of the categories.
Like we can do in Excel, the same way we can do it here.
Exactly. You can do actually more than what you can do in Excel. That's my promise. Means Excel gives means extremely bad graphics, at least in my opinion. That is for those who don't know how to create the graphics.
Okay, sir.
Okay, Saurabh Sharma sir, you can unmute.
Yeah, I unmuted myself. Sir, can I ask now?
Sure, why not?
Sir, like we created a graph and we can represent like the two graph in one row, one graph in two rows. So can we club in a manner where there are four partitions? We have
You simply have to give the appropriate value in the command of row. It means 4 by 4, 2 by 4, 4 by 2,
right.
whatever you want.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I got it. Thank you.
Jayan Tripathi sir, you can unmute.
You see, one thing you have to understand that I'm trying to take very simple example by which you can correlate what is there in the command and what is happening in the R. But that can be extended to any number actually.
Yes, sir.
And Dr. Jayan Tripathi has also raised hand, but I think he's not able to speak. I have made you presenter, sir. Please speak. Tripathi, sir.
Yes, thank you, madam. Salab, sir. Suppose, and while we are preparing the graph, and in the first row, I just want to have one figure, and in the second row has to be divided into two parts.
Yes.
So how it can be? What should be the command?
Dr. Tripathi, I will say simply, I never did it, but then I have a logic that I did. That, for example, when I write this MF row as SSC, say this 222, for example, or say C1, 1, then the next one can be partitioned as once again SSC 1, 2.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, sir.
There is one more, operations Ghosh. Operations D Ghosh. Please unmute yourself. Operations D Ghosh. I have made you the presenter. Please unmute yourself. Yes.
Yeah. Sir, very nice session from your end. I first of all, ma'am, my name is Dr. D Ghosh. I had corrected yesterday, as you told regarding the updates. Now, my question is that, sir, because when we are practicing the commands of R, we need to repeat the things, because sometimes coding, sir, sometimes we find that these things are not coming, and again, as a result of which, it depends on the practice, sir. So, sir, my humble submission to you is that which book of our language can we adopt so that we can prepare the things very nicely, sir?
You see, there are actually, it all depends that how do you want to use your R. Sometimes people are using R in statistics, sometimes R in biostatistics or somewhere else. So yesterday I had given the answer of this query that you can go to my Miss NPTEL site. There I have listed the books which can be used, and if you want me, Miss, I can send it to Anuradha, Miss, just copy and paste, and then she can circulate to you all. But definitely there is no single book that can help. It all depends on your objective, that what you really want to do, because now there are different books are for pattern recognition, are for sampling, are for design, are for time series, are for statistical analysis. And if you want to do usual statistics, which I am telling you here, then I have my own book which is there. And yeah, as I said yesterday, I think around 5.4 or 5.5 million copies of those books have been downloaded. So people are finding it, I think, easier to read from that books. So that is also an option.
Thank you, sir. Sir, my objective, basically, I am the associate professor in business administration. So my area of specialization is operations management and business analytics. Yes. So from that point of view, I just want to, practice R as well as to go for the visualization as well as analytics purpose, sir.
Yes, yes. So in fact, if you are going for an elementary level, like as how to change rows, how to change columns, etc., then possibly there are a couple of books which I have listed on that website, including my own book. But definitely, if you want to concentrate only on the graphics, then there are books, say R for GUI, where you will get only graphics and graphics. So it all depends up to what extent you want to go. But
Thank
it is, but there are different books for different topics. So for elementary books, you can refer to my own book also.
Thank you, sir. Thanks a lot, sir.
Okay, sir. So we'll break for the session
Yes.
and we'll start by 2:40. Okay. Thank you so much.
Actually, there is another one thing. I will finish at 4:30 because at 4:45 I have another meeting.
Sir, definitely, because I am also seeing that teaching for 3 days continuous, it's really stressful. Sir, you please break by 4:15.
No, it is not for stress because my stress is not going to over after that. That is going to increase again. So because the meeting starts at 4:45. So yeah. So even if you wish, I can start at 2:30 also. Means I have no issue.
Thank you, sir. Your sessions are really good, sir. Really good sessions, sir.
Yeah,
So
thank you so much, sir. Sir, we'll stop the recording.